Hey, we're talking about the Emmys today, but I'm gonna do a kind of party for the Emmys. So the Emmys are a copyrighted thing, I think, and I don't think that they want people to stream it, but I'm gonna stream me watching it. Not the Emmys, but me watching the Emmys. And then if you want, you can also watch the Emmys, or I'll say what's happening while I watch them. But I'm gonna do that on Twitch when the Emmys are, which is the Sunday at 8 Eastern? I don't know. Whenever the Emmys are, I'm going to be on Twitch. So come join. I'm saying that my link is going to be down here. I just started doing this without any explanation. So I'll put a link to my Twitch in the description. Come join me. We're just going to like hang, and I'm just going to say what's happening, and you'll see my reactions, and it'll be a lot of fun. And then also maybe I'll do some other Twitch stuff at some point. I haven't really been, but maybe I will. Oh, Emily, put this in the beginning of the video. If you're like, why are you wearing two different colors of eyeshadows? First of all, mind your business. Second of all, it's because I made this mask and I was wearing it out today when I took my cat to the vet. And so it was like color blocked because I invented color blocking actually. Fun fact. Hi, I'm Emily. That's how that's pronounced. And I like television. It's kind of an understatement. Like I want to make it someday. And I used to dream about winning one of these Emmy Awards here. Maybe I still do. That'd be cringe. Nobody has dreams anymore. Dreams are dead. And I know that award shows are basically fake. See, if you don't know, they're basically like the studios and everybody, people's agents and managers, like give, well, I don't know how much they're allowed to like gift the people who vote, but they do all these for-your consideration campaigns. If you're ever in LA during the time of them, there's like a million billboards and stuff up. And if you try to go on Variety's website or any of those, you see a whole bunch of like, please vote for Watchmen or whatever, but it's probably Watchmen because Watchmen really wants to win. It's often not really about like what is the best. What if it was? What if I could vote? So I made this tier list here. Hold on, I'm gonna make this big. I made this here tier list. Because that's a thing the kids are totally doing these days. That's on trend. That's currently a thing that people are doing. What I have here is I have every single one of the limited series, comedy series, and drama series that are nominated for outstanding all of those. So, first things first, there are a couple of things I have not seen. I have not yet seen The Mandalorian. I know, shock horror. I missed out on the zeitgeist of Baby Yoda. But, I don't know, one of these days I'll give Ricky Rat my hard-earned dollar and I'll see what the fuss is all about. But I didn't feel like starting that whole thing with, like, you know, when I had all these other shows to watch. So, I haven't seen that. This is a show that I should have seen because it won before, but The Handmaid's Tale. I have started watching The Handmaid's Tale. It is not a show you can binge. It is dark, it is depressing, it has really just horrible sexism and other things I can't say on YouTube without getting shadow banned. And also, there is a scene where they are waiting for the train in Boston. Okay, no, listen, it's not the train in Boston, it's the T. And also, it looked like the sign they were taking down said Arlington, but it didn't look anything like Arlington. It didn't look anything like the T in general, but Arlington is on the, isn't it on the green line? It might be on another line too, but on the green line is a trolley. It's not a subway, it's a trolley. And it squeaks so loudly, and I was going to live there, and then the thing happened and it couldn't move. And don't remind me about Boston now. Oh my god. What I've seen is really, really good. I have to say that, but I haven't even finished one season of it yet. So, and then the only other thing, and I just got done watching the first 2 seasons of this, but I have not seen the most recent season, which is what it's nominated for, is Killing Eve. And I've heard that the newest season, the 3rd season, for which it is nominated, is not quite as good as the ones before. So I will have to withhold judgment on that until I see it. However, I would say from what I've seen that it was like well-made good. Oh, I should talk about what these other categories mean too. Outstanding. So that's like what the award is. The award is for like outstanding drama series, outstanding comedy, outstanding limited, outstanding. So that's gonna be reserved for the things that I, like my top picks to win. Like if I were voting, what I would vote for. Well-made is like, I would be super happy if this won too. It wouldn't be my top pick, but like I would be very happy if that won. And it's well made. It's really well done. And even if it doesn't hit my particular buttons in the way that some of these shows do, it was really good. So like, yeah, sure. Give it the award, fine. Good is like, I enjoyed it, but I don't think that technically it is like outstanding or was the best television that we've had all year. Fine is, I mean, yeah, it was fine. I probably enjoy the things I'm gonna put into fine, but I don't think that they should win. Or, you know, they don't make me feel as fuzzy or whatever as good, but they aren't like bad. And bad is for just stuff that's bad. There's a couple of things that I was like, I do not like this. Okay, so let's get started. Let's focus on the limited series first because nobody cares about that. Okay, first up, and the one that everybody won't stop talking about. Oh, also these pictures, the icons are really bad. I'm sorry. It's not getting changed. This is Watchmen. I'm gonna put Watchmen in well made. Watchmen, yeah, it was pretty good. Angered a lot of chuds, so I'm totally here for that. I had some issues with it, some gripes, some little could have been better. Also some political thoughts. I actually have a whole video written on it that I've been meaning to do for like over a month now that talks about like the end of history and stuff a little bit and reviews it more in depth. But I mean, pretty good, yeah. And if it won, I'd be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I also really enjoyed Little Fires Everywhere. I'm also gonna give that a well made. I think I prefer it to Watchmen actually. Little Fires Everywhere, man, it hit on melodrama, but gave it the respect it deserved. Because melodrama doesn't necessarily mean something's bad, it just means like character and relationship driven and all of that.
Emily's British robot butler here. As a trained Shakespearean actor myself, I should say that melodrama actually focuses on highly sensationalized and dramatic plots to the detriment of character development. So to see something that takes plots of what might be seen in a soap opera and to give it deeper characters and relationships outside of stereotypes is wonderful. Not everything has to be high stakes in business or politics. Home life and even teen drama can be made well.
To have melodrama given like the prestige it deserves, given the emotions behind it and the actual weight, so it's not just some like superficial like oh you like slept with my husband or whatever, you know, to give it something substantial behind it. And the way that it talks about social issues, I am so obsessed with that quote that Reese Witherspoon's creepy waspy character is like I made good choices, and Kerry Washington is like, no, you had good choices. And I was like, damn, isn't that just like power dynamics, dude? So I don't know, I thought that show was really, really well made. You want the first bad? I did not like Mrs. America. Listen, I know that it's controversial. I know a lot of people were like, no, it's so good, feminism, but it's very like electoralism is great. And is it? First of all, politically, that show was very like, go vote. Like, if we have the Senate is Democrats, then we can have the Equal Rights Amendment. And I'm just like, healthcare, please. Okay, one time Quentin Reviews got a lot of shit for saying the phrase humanizing Trump, and people were like, how can you humanize a human? But I get it. And that's how I feel about this show and Phyllis Schlafly. Phyllis Schlafly is the ghoul who got the Equal Rights Amendment banned. Or, you know, stopped it from being ratified. And it yes queens her. It's like, no, she's smarter than the men, though. She might be terrible, you know, kind of bad, kind of, but she's smarter than the men, and she works hard, and girl power. And also, like, one of her lackeys is Sarah Paulson as a trad wife. You wouldn't cast Sarah Paulson if you didn't want that character to be sympathetic. Same with her husband. Her husband is played by freaking John Slattery. You wouldn't make the husband John Slattery if you didn't want him to be likable and stuff. No. And also then like it has the, you know, second wavy feminists who did a lot of stuff, and like, okay, they did more than I ever did, but also like the criticism of Gloria Steinem is like, oh, she cares about her hair falling and her glasses just right, and not like she worked with the CIA. But to be fair, the CIA she worked with was really liberal, you guys. So I didn't like it as an anarchish. Unbelievable is a great example of fine. I think it has a really important message about believing survivors, but also not expecting people to uphold some level of like performativity when they've gone through a trauma or something terrible. And also, I mean, it brings out the 40% of all cop statistics, which Google it if you don't know, but like I was surprised that a cop procedural type of show would bust that statistic out. But then its solution to like the problems with policing is, yeah, so we should have more women because they like care, you know? And I think differently. It was like good in a lot of ways, but oh my god, the dialogue too on this show. The dialogue was really, really bad. But I think that the story itself was pretty solid. Overall, it was a good show, but definitely not outstanding. It was fine. And I would have to say, for me personally, the show I would nominate for limited series, I would have to say, honestly, Unorthodox. I thought that Unorthodox was really, really good. I thought that it did, like, really darker, deep emotions well, and also did more lighthearted emotions pretty well too. The modern day storyline was a little bit like a Disney Channel original movie, kind of, a little bit, but it was like what the character deserved, and it worked. You know, it wasn't too, like, out there for me to buy into. My disbelief was suspended. I don't know, I just thought, I feel like that's probably the best. What is probably going to win is probably Watchmen. Watchmen also did this thing where they put out the whole show for free on the weekend of Juneteenth, and they were like, yeah, because, like, support Black artists. But, like, it wasn't run by a Black person. There were a lot of actors who were Black who did amazing, who were nominated for Emmys. But also, I couldn't help but feel like they did that because, like, it was the first weekend of Emmy voting, and they really want to, you know, like, I don't know, if I were HBO and I wanted to show a show from a Black creator and make it free for the weekend, I would have picked Insecure. But we'll get to that when we get to comedy, which we'll actually do next, but I'm holding off on Insecure. Just wait a second. Okay, comedies. Curb Your Enthusiasm. Oh my god. Okay, so first of all, I haven't seen the first 9 seasons of Curb Your Enthusiasm. I only saw the most recent one, but that most recent one is the one that it's nominated for. And also, like, I got what was happening. I didn't need to watch the 9 seasons prior that happened in the year 2000 or 1999 or whatever it was. Also, Larry David's daughter went to my college, and that's just super weird to me because after watching that show, I'm like, what the is it like to have Larry David as a dad? Oh man. I'm gonna put Curb Your Enthusiasm in fine. I enjoyed it for the most part. I have my reservations about it. For one thing, I mean, disability is a big thing for me, and Larry David uses disability in the show kind of to be like, oh, most people wouldn't talk about, you know, wouldn't bring it up because most people are, you know, but his character, he brings up every grievance he has, or every, you know, thought, everything, nothing goes unsaid, nothing is, like, subtle. Which could be really cool and really fun, and in some ways it's like, okay, you're kind of treating us more like people, but at the same time, like, first of all, we got Fred Armisen playing a guy in a walker. He doesn't use a walker. Let's get disabled characters in disabled roles. Also, just in general, I don't know, it doesn't feel like a disabled person worked on it, and I feel like if a disabled person worked on it, then it could be, like, really cool and poignant and all of that. I don't know, I'll probably have to do, like, a whole video essay on that at some point. But, like, it's fine. It's a good show. It's funny. It's also actually really impressive how they don't write the dialogue. They improvise that dialogue, which is really impressive to me. But I also don't think that it's as good as some of the other shows that are nominated. Shows like The Good Place. That's going to be a controversial statement. I think The Good Place, I'm going to put it in Well Made. I would be very happy if it won, because it was its last season, and it'd be great if it got one. And I think it was really cool that a show tried to address, you know, big philosophical problems, tried to go through all of that and make it a comedy show, and how it really played with characters growing, which used to be a thing that didn't really happen much in television because you just revert back to who you were, especially in comedy. You just revert back to who you were, whereas The Good Place is all about character growth. I thought it did it really well, and I would be happy if it won. It wouldn't be my pick, but I would be very happy if it won. It would probably be my number 2. The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. It's kind of between good and fine for me. I'm gonna say good because they coordinate a lot of things. The acting is pretty good, although I hear some of the actors aren't Jewish, which is kind of yikes, but it's like made by a Jewish person. It also won for its first season, Best Comedy, and it won a bunch of things that year. I don't think it's going to again this year. I also think that the first season is really where it shined, and it's still been interesting to follow, but I don't think it's been quite as, you know, exciting or whatever. But it's a good show, and it was interesting to see how the character adapts to touring, but touring in a bit of a nicer, you know. And it was nice to see her manager actually, like, not be terrible at being a manager, because season 2 I felt like she was not a very good manager, and I was kind of like, why are you still doing this? But also, at the same time, I don't know, in season 3 especially, I felt like there were a lot of subplots that I was like, do we really need these to happen? And the show is so long. It's like an hour long sometimes. You were a comedy. And also, for how, like, you know, upbeat it is, I feel like if it was snippy, if it was like a just half hour, you know, like a little, and had less of these fewer subplots, I think it would be a lot better. Schitt's Creek is gonna go into good, which again, good is just like, I enjoy it, but Schitt's Creek is a cute show. And the acting on it is really good. Especially with this last season though, in the finale, I don't know, it left me wanting more. It left me wanting a lot more. Especially that finale, which just kind of felt like they wrapped things up real quick and then just kind of felt like a last episode when, I don't know, I wanted more. More emotion, more drama, if you can really kind of have that. The little drama they did have with the whole what happened during the massage was just kind of like a weird to me. I don't know. I wouldn't really want it to win per se. Now this one is the most controversial to me personally because I adored this show, and out of all the shows, I want more of it, I think, like the most. And I'm gonna say that is What We Do in the Shadows, and it is good. Probably more good than Schitt's Creek and Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. It is very, very funny. And as like just a comedy show, as a show you just like sit and laugh at, it's, for the most part, it's pretty good, like a comfort show. That being said, there are some things that are questionable. I mean, first of all, it's like really violent because, they're vampires and they kill people. But there was also like the witches did a thing that was really bad in the second season. Real bad. It was kind of treated like a joke, but it's not a joke to do that, to pretend to be a different person in that situation. That's not good. Don't do that. And there's also just little things like that it doesn't pay attention to that a lot of other shows do or would. Like Nandor, one episode, he doesn't remember his own language because he's been speaking English so long. But then the next episode, he's reading a letter from his parents. Wouldn't that letter be in his language? Bruh? The Kominsky Method. Bad. Okay, let's compare that to Curb Your Enthusiasm for a second, because both are about boomer white men. Curb Your Enthusiasm is, I don't understand some of this stuff that's happening, and I'm gonna make a big deal out of it, and I'm a jerk for that. The Kominsky Method is, I don't understand things that are happening that are changing, and I'm gonna complain, and I am in the right. There is a scene in like the first season, I think, where one of his students does a racially insensitive monologue because he's an acting teacher, and the students start having a discussion about it, and he basically says, racism's not that big a deal. You know what's a big deal? Cancer. Because he thinks he might have cancer. It is such a like, whiny, woe is me, I'm a rich man in Hollywood, and I've gotten, like, most of the things I wanted, but I might be dying, and I'm having an existential crisis. Shut up, you baby. Like, and it's not funny, which is to be expected because it's by Chuck Lorre, who made The Big Bang Theory and 2.5 Men. I thought in the first scene when he was talking about acting as like almost being a god and creating and growth, I was like, this dude is speaking my language. I love this. I'm gonna like this show. No, it just gets worse and worse, and it's just so whiny, but not even like Curb Your Enthusiasm. It's in a funny way, and it's like, get a load of this guy who like makes a big deal out of everything. Whereas in the Kominsky Method, it's like, yeah, we're right to feel this way. Oh my god, Alan Arkin's daughter, who is the most poorly developed character in like any of these shows probably, who like is not a person and is not funny either. Ugh. I hate the Kominsky Method. Don't waste your time. Dead to Me. You know what? I'm gonna put Dead to Me in Well Made. Kind of for a similar reason to like Little Fires Everywhere. I mean, the thing is, Dead to Me is melodrama, and it embraces it. It takes that soap opera-y stuff and it plays it for comedy, which is smart because like it is comedy. It is really funny. Those like twists. There were so many times in the show where I like gasp and then that gasp turns into a laugh. Like it's kind of over the top, but that's what's funny about it. And at the same time, it like does hit things that, you know, like you really feel like it taps into some like real emotions and real fears and all of that. But at the same time, it's like funny soap opera. It's just like having fun with it. It's just like, yeah, what if they killed this guy and then they had to cover it up and then this had to happen and this had to happen. I think it's great. I don't know. I love Dead to Me. But the show that I would give my vote to is Insecure. So especially the last season, especially the last episode, there was like a storyline with the cops that was and probably not what they wanted to air because it aired in like June of this year, but they filmed it probably way before and probably, you know, before coronavirus really hit, and that was probably the whole thing. It's definitely not a perfect show, but I think that it takes advantage of the television medium so well. You have these scenes where Issa talks to herself in the mirror to psych herself up. She raps in the mirror. The way those are shot are so well done. You can also just see so much care put into the show. Like, I can see in the ways that they shoot things that are so clever, the way that they cut scenes, they cut it at the perfect time that a lot of other shows would have, like, you know, let it go a little bit too long or would have cut it too short. They cut it so perfectly. I also really get a sense that the random bit characters, like, all have their own lives and are, like, fully fleshed out in their own way, and have their own things going on, and I love to see that. I mean, also, it's a show about a Black woman, by a Black woman. That's awesome. And even though it's not for me, I mean, obviously, you know, it's not, like, for me, it's still very relatable, which is something Issa Rae has said, that, like, well, Black people can be relatable too. Like, yes, it's within this specific culture that, like, other people, like, I don't share, but the feelings and the break it down on, like, a relationship scale, how people interact with each other, how people interact with the world, it rings so true. And I think it's really cool then to also see it from the perspective of somebody who I feel like I have a lot in common, but, like, also these big differences. It's just so cool and it's just so well done. And I mean, it's not like a perfect 10, but I think that it really takes advantage of the television format. And I think that also I'm excited to see stories from people who aren't, like, straight old white dudes, like the freaking Kominsky Method, which is so bad. So my vote would go towards Insecure. Now, let's talk about the dramas. Okay, no, I do have all the dramas because there's 8 and there's 5 here. This is Ozark, but the things didn't, and it was black on nothingness. So let's do Ozark. Ozark is good. Ozark should probably be in fine. If it was the first 2 seasons, I'd probably put it in fine. But I thought that the 3rd season was really, really good. I might want to do a video on that and disability too, because there's this whole plot line with Wendy's brother having bipolar disorder and how that interferes with the family business. They launder money for a drug cartel. That's not a spoiler. It's the premise of the show. Now, Ozark, I enjoy it, and it does kind of fill some of the void of Breaking Bad. And I've also talked to my friend Johnny the Queer POTUS, who you should follow, who has nothing to do with, like, any of this really, but I was talking to them about the show, and they said that they liked it because Breaking Bad, it took a long time for the family to know, and the family wasn't in on it. Ozark, from, like, almost the very beginning, the family knows and the family is in on it. And Laura Linney, it's kind of like, what if Skylar White, like, actively, like, instead of just doing it because she felt like she had to, what if she was, like, really into it, kind of like taking it over and, like, pushing everybody into it more. So in the 3rd season, like, her brother, how do you keep a family member safe who might not, this business might not be very accessible to them, even though they aren't the one in it, they're just a family member. And they even talk about how, like, this isn't a progressive business, and I think there's a lot to be said about how drug gangs are kind of anarcho-capitalist in a way, and despite the anarcho part, the very, you know, capitalist part means that there's inherently going to be unjust hierarchy, which means that it doesn't really have the anarcho part, because the anarcho part is kind of against that. Ozark knows where its point A is and its point Z is, but the things that the characters do so that the story can get to point Z don't make sense or are just so mind-bogglingly like, bruh, do you want to die? Like, to take an example that's not really a spoiler, because it's the 1st and 2nd episodes, the guy who Marty works with, Jason Bateman, the main character, who he works with, is laundering money from the cartel, is stealing money from the cartel, and is an informant for the FBI. How many times do you want to get murdered, dude? What did you think was gonna happen? Yeah, because he gets murdered. And the show does this, where the characters will make these decisions, and I'm like, no one would do that. Why would you do that? But they do it, and it feels like the only reason they do it is, like, to get from point A to point Z, you know? It doesn't feel like it flows. Breaking Bad was a show that, like, yeah, some, like, really absurd things happened, but, like, you understood why it happened. Like, there was that big plane crash, but you can understand, oh, that happened because the one guy wasn't doing his job, because he was in Morium because of this, and that happened because Walt felt like this, and then Walt did. It makes sense, and it has its pitchforks, but it's wrenches thrown in there. It has its complications, but they make sense. It's not just, I'm going to act a certain way so I can be the complication, even though my character would not do that. That being said, I mean, it's, like, still pretty good. Like, it's enjoyable. It kind of feels like the void of Breaking Bad, but it is not, I would not say it is anywhere near the quality of Breaking Bad. But if you're looking for something like Breaking Bad, watch it. Speaking of Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, I'm gonna put Better Call Saul and Well Made. Better Call Saul really wants to win this year. And again, I'd be happy with it winning. I'd like it to win once, and it has one more season left. So, like, if it could win once, that'd be nice, I guess. Because it is a really good show. But, I don't know, this past season, I just wanted more. I feel like I'm saying that a lot, but I just wanted more. Like, I wanted, it felt like it was the second to last season that they're setting things up. It felt like they were setting things up. And they set things up really interestingly, and I'm really interested to see where it goes. But it itself wasn't one of those seasons that was like, pow, wasn't like stuff is happening. I am feeling things because stuff is really happening. It was just kind of like revving up to, okay, but stuff is really gonna happen. So I thought it was really good. I really enjoyed the show. But, and if it won, that'd be cool. But I don't think that it was the best. Stranger Things, I'm gonna say it's fine, actually, because I don't actively hate Stranger Things. But are you kidding me? In terms of quality, you're gonna have that up against things like Unorthodox, Insecure, Watchmen, Little Fires Everywhere, The Good Place, Dead to Me, Better Call Saul. Like, you're gonna have that up against these things. No, it is like fun as like popcorn, you know, just chilling out TV. The first two seasons maybe I would have even put in good, because I felt like, maybe not the second, but the first season like had a lot of emotion going on. This season was just like, oh, there are commies and our stories intertwine and I don't know. It was fine. It was fine. I don't know what else to say about it. Not to mention all of the stuff about the communists. People have gotten into that. Netflix is really big on making the commies into villains, though, because they did that with Stranger Things, and they did that recently with the Umbrella Academy. Well, kind of. I mean, that didn't look as bad as it was, but, you know, they had the Soviets invade, and then the Soviets dropped a nuke, and it's like, why would you send your soldiers in when you're going to nuke anyway? Also, BoJack Horseman had the guy who was also in the coma when BoJack's girlfriend was in the coma, and he turned out to be a communist spy. That was fun. That was the good one. That was the best one. That was the only one that's done it well. The Crown, dude. Other seasons of Crown, I would have put in good, or no, probably well made. Because, you know, obviously, I don't like monarchy. I'm anarchish, but I am not an anarcho-monarchist. Because that's a meme. But the thing about The Crown is that even though apparently the Queen watches it and likes it, I always thought of The Crown as like, why are we doing this? You know? Like, a great example of, like, hierarchy trying so hard to justify itself, but, like, it is not, dude. It is not at all. And the Queen, like, the funny thing about, especially the first two seasons of the show, is the Queen is, like, so miserable. She doesn't want to be Queen. She's like, her and her family, like, go to the uncle who abdicated, and they're like, how dare you? Like, what? Like, dude, you could just stop. Did you know that? You could just, like, say, hey, you know what? The monarchy is not, like, a real thing anymore. I don't want any actual power. Maybe we can, like, live in this house because it's, like, our family house, this freaking gigantic place, and maybe some stuff, I don't know, but, like, the fact that she has that power, even though she doesn't use it, the fact that a person has it is gross. It's gross. I hate it. But, like, I felt like the first two seasons of The Crown, there was that. It was still critical of the idea, even if the show didn't mean to be. I got that. Maybe I was reading into it based on my beliefs, but I felt like I could work with it, you know? The first two seasons also had storylines. They had a full, like, you know, she's having issues with her husband, blah, blah, and all, but then we kind of work it out and, you know, it's fine. This season was all over the place. It was like, the Queen is a heartless bitch who doesn't care about the fact that a bunch of people died in a mining town or whatever. And then also her sister is weird and getting a divorce. And then this, and then her kids, and the kids learning Welsh. It was just, it was so episodic almost. And I get that, to be fair, The Crown has to deal with the fact that, like, it's based on real life. So it has to, like, contend with real life, you know, timeline stuff, to some extent at least. But it was just... It wasn't like a narrative, and it was just random. It just felt so random. I'm gonna put it in fine. And then finally, outstanding, probably my favorite out of all of these shows, Succession. I love Succession. Okay, listen, Shakespeare walked so Succession could run. Like, I'm kind of hard on Succession too, because I call it like manufacturing consent brought to you by HBO, and like, that along with The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel are two shows on this list that have both used the song Which Side Are You On? Not the version by Intellectual Darkwave, which is weird because that version slaps. But they've used that song, and it was kind of weird how they used it in Succession, because it was after he and his dad had the falling out because he tried to usurp him in his business. And that song is about, hey, join the union so that, you know, we don't get screwed over. You know, like the original song is about worker solidarity, and they kind of used it to be like, oh, there's two different sides now. It's Ken and his daddy. Like, that's not what the song is about, dude. It's a labor song. And also, like, there was the whole thing about how, in this newest season, the second season, how the family that ran the New York Times sort of thing, like, they weren't perfect, but, like, their news was, like, real news. Our news, it's like Fox News is bad, but, like, no, the New York Times still manufactures hella consent, dude. Like, but I adore Succession because, like I said, it's like Shakespeare meets the Murdochs, and, like, oh my god, the idea of, if you're gonna, like, make something out of a person based on Rupert Murdoch, to make it then, like, Shakespearean and this, like, family drama, and to get into, like, how running this business and running it, like, efficiently and doing all the business stuff you're supposed to do, how it is, like, killed his family, and how his kids are so, like, traumatized and messed up from it, dude. And, like, oh my god, and then the fish out of water story with Greg, because Greg is, like, kind of related to them and is using nepotism to get there, but only because his mom told him to, because he couldn't hold a job because he would get high and throw up in the mascot costume and stuff. But the way that they do the fish out of water, and then how you, like, adapt to this kind of lifestyle, and then, like, you get kind of, like, disappointed, like that scene where he was talking about, like, his favorite champagne, and they're like, oh, Greg has a favorite champagne, and he was like, well, yeah, you just start to, like, notice that some are better than others, and then you get a favorite, and then the other ones aren't as good. Like, the way that he gets into those, like, little things. Okay, so there is a scene where Antifa protesters show up, and I was very worried, because as the heiress of Antifa, I was like, oh no, this can't be bad representation, or our stocks are gonna go down. But, like, the Antifa in that episode, the anti-fascist protesters, are, like, kind of in the right. And then you have the liberal Shiv, who, like, so basically, this is kind of a spoiler alert for I don't remember which episode, but then you have the, like, a gun goes off in the building, and, like, Shiv, who's the liberal daughter, who's, like, better than them, and what if I ran the company? Because, like, what if somebody good ran it? And, like, she's saying, like, I bet it was an Antifa. And, like, no, it was an employee who did it to themselves because the working conditions were bad. Oh my god, I love this show. Dude, I love this show. It is, like, calling out what's got to be called out. You could say something about recuperation. You could say something about how, like I said, it's manufacturing consent brought to you by HBO. But, like, it does have its finger on the pulse of the problem. And it calls out the problem in this, like, poetic Shakespearean way that I just love. And I just love Succession. And I really should go into, like, I could go into so many of the characters. I'll probably do a video on Succession at some point. But I would highly recommend Succession. It's so great. It's my favorite. It is my favoriteest favorite, too, out of all of them. So this is my tier list. I'll try to watch these, I don't know, at some point. Okay, so that is my tier list. And my thoughts on the stuff. What do you think? Have you seen any of these? Did you just watch because you're here to be entertained? Or do you care? If you care, let me know. What are you rooting for? Who are you rooting for? What do you think about things? How are you doing? How's life going? Give this video a like. Subscribe if you want to see me talk about Succession at some point in the future. Comment, yeah, how you feel about television and these shows. And I hope to see you on Sunday on Twitch when I do that. And bye.